All right, welcome back to another episode of Sky U Pod. Joining us now is Ryan from Keeping It Orange and Blue, our Illinois affiliate with the College Huddle. Ryan, we're really looking forward to this game. Really appreciate you making time for us and joining us on here today.
Yeah, man, my pleasure to be here, no doubt. It's gonna be a big game. I think maybe bigger than we thought a few weeks ago for different reasons. I think Illinois has a 10-win aspirations this year, which is realistic when you look at their schedule. A couple, obviously not easy, but when you look at the 4-game stretch they just came off, in a 5-game stretch, really, when there's only one game that you're like, that should be for sure a win. You know, when you go at
Yeah,
Nebraska, you go at Penn State, you go at Oregon, and you mix in Michigan at home and a huge 100-year anniversary game, and then the Purdue game, which turned out to be a barn burner, which it really shouldn't have been, but
yeah,
it's a fun one when you win that game, you know. So, and then the Gophers, who are three wins in a row, who are looking to get bowl eligible again. I think that's going to be inevitable at some point, but still a big game for both teams. I think Minnesota, if they can win Saturday, maybe you're looking at 8-9 wins. It's a big one.
yeah.
So no doubt.
Yeah, I have just a couple general questions about Illinois' program for you to start, and then we'll
Okay.
get into more game specifics. Let's start with Brett Bielema. Gopher fans hate him for obvious reasons. Too many years at Wisconsin under his belt, have yet to beat him. I just wanted your general impressions on his job that he's done so far. I believe he's only in year 4 at Illinois, and I think they've been to 2 bowls under him so far.
They've been to one bowl,
1 bowl, but they're bowl
but
eligible
they're
this
gonna,
year.
yeah. But so technically now you can say he's got them to 2 bowl season.
Sure, sure.
So yes, I'm just plugging the podcast on my X real quick. So
No, you're good. You're
get
good.
more viewers from the Illini side of things here, but yeah. So overall, let's see, he is 24 and 21 in his 3.5, 3 and 3/4 seasons, which is the best mark in 30 plus years in the program. So, as much as, it's a little bit better than average, it's above average, but for Illinois football, which is not a perennial power, it's a team that, battles that 6-game, 5 wins here, 5 wins there, then they'll get a sixth, every 3 seasons or so. It's to the most for the most part. So Illinois fans aren't used to bowl games every year. So having Brett Bielema putting you in the mix is fun. And in the second season, Illinois was competing for the Big Ten West and really should have won it. Exactly, your dog knows. They blew it so bad. Like they were 7-1 2 years ago, and the talent that they had on that team, for any Minnesota fans, I'm sure you guys can probably remember some of the games, but that
Yes,
year,
painfully.
yes. So that year was the Devin Witherspoon, who is just killing it in Seattle. Chase Brown, who's killing it for the Bengals. Johnny Newton, who's making big strides with the Commanders. Quan Martin, who's starting for the Commanders. Sidney Brown for the Eagles. All on this. No, Kirby Joseph was the year after. But anyway, bottom line, they had 5 or 6 pros on that team, and 4 started on defense. So it was a team that ended up finishing 8-5, but really should have been a 10-win team. They lost at Michigan on a game that was just not only were the pass interference penalties.
It was brutal. We were watching that game in a casino together, me and Max were, and yeah,
And J.J. McCarthy's knee was down on 4th down, and
yeah,
they didn't call it. It was just like murderer's row of like, you can't miss all that. And so they lost that game, and then they literally got one robbed from them earlier in the year at Indiana when they caught a touchdown pass clearly, and the officials, for some reason, literally just replay review took it away. So 10-win team, and then last year, when you lose all that NFL talent, there's a transition. So Illinois defensive coordinator Ryan Walters took the Purdue job. He's finding out things are not always as green, on the other
yeah,
side when you're running the program yourself. and Aaron Henry transitioned from the defensive back coach to defensive coordinator, and he had a rough season, but he also had a lot of new pieces in there. And in year 2, things have gotten a lot better. There's been a couple bad moments against Purdue and last week against Oregon, but you really can't blame Illinois against Oregon because Oregon put up 30 plus on Ohio State. So, you can't really say, oh, well, you gave up 38 to Oregon, in Eugene. Well, and everybody does. So, but overall, been really good. So, Brett Bielema, 24-21, is putting Illinois in bowl game scenarios and in bowl games like we want to be. And this could end up being one of the best seasons in 25 years in the program.
Yeah, one thing I've always appreciated about Bielema is like, yes, he loves to run the football, but he also seems to just also be willing to go all in on whatever's going to win him the game. And this year, at least from an outside perspective, it seems to be Luke Altmaier throwing to your two best receivers in Bryant and Franklin. First of all, is Bryant going to be back this game? Have you heard anything on that?
Trust me, as much as you guys want to know and are interested, I think all Illini fans are just as tempted and want to. So here's the thing I've learned about Mr. Bielema. I didn't like him either when he was at Wisconsin, and not because he went to Iowa and then coached Wisconsin, but because he was born in Illinois at Illini Hospital, where he and chose to go play at Iowa and got a Hawkeye tattoo and then coached up Wisconsin to win 3 straight Big Ten titles. But what I've learned about him, and not every coach answers things injury-wise necessarily truthfully, but like he'll come out and give you these frank answers, and it's so, to me, obvious that it's not true, but he's like, is so convincing with it that you're like, maybe it is, but then you kind of find like Pat Bryant was never going to play, but like he'll tell you like, oh, he passed concussion protocol, the first concussion protocol, and you're thinking, man, I don't know, dude, like I don't know if that's possible. I just saw how he got hit, and that was less than 48 hours, but he makes you think that, wow, he might really play. And then he'll give you the whole, well, he might be on a snap count Saturday. So then you're like, okay, well, he might play, but only just maybe half as much. And then come Saturday, he'll go, oh, he's just not playing. So like that, I'm going to be honest, if I was a Gopher fan, I would think you're going to get very little and limited Pat Bryant. And while that may be good for the team, Minnesota, I think in the grand scheme of things, I think if he doesn't play, as much as that may help Minnesota, it's a shame because getting to watch him play this year, and he's on path to break Illinois' single season touchdown record. And I think it'd have been fun to watch Parrish and that defense battle it out. That's why I love the game, man. I think it'd have been fun, So now it's like Illinois got other quality pieces in the wideout position. So if he doesn't play or play very much, obviously Zachary Franklin will be a key. He had a big game against Oregon. He's the real deal. He's actually the college football's active leader in touchdowns and receiving yards. So he had a huge career at UTSA before he went to Ole Miss last year, and then he's finishing his 5th and final season at Illinois. But if you look up his stuff, he's the real deal. So now with that said, to finish up that point, I think Illinois is going to try to run the ball in Minnesota. So,
Fair enough.
we kept keeping it orange and blue. We do that. People think it's, oh, we're like keeping it orange and blue colored glasses, or we're drinking orange and blue, like, so we think we're going to win every game. It's more of like we're keeping it real with our fans. So we tried to tell everybody, in Minnesota's losses this year, they've given up big time rushing yards. And even, like Michigan, 160. You look at what, heck, and even some of their non-losses, like they've given up big time rushing yards. And I've seen that's could be a weakness there. I think we looked it up. I think they're 80th in the country, I think, and rush defense efficiency, something like that.
That sounds right. I don't have the number off
Yeah.
my head,
So,
but
but Michigan ran it up on them, and not that meaning that's uh, something necessarily terrible, but USC got gashed them pretty good, for some quality rushing.
yeah.
Yeah. So
USC should have kept running, to be honest, but because we never put more guys in the box. That's why that's part of the reason it was so open for USC. It definitely is our weakness on defense, but part of the thing that the Gophers did in that game was just keep so many DBs over the top, helping against
yeah,
their wideouts. But you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
I,
It
I
is the
think
weakness.
I think, and trust me, as much as Fleck may annoy some of the Big Ten fans, the man knows football, and he knows that that's their weakness, and I'm sure he knows that Illinois is probably going to try to run the ball. So as much as it may, me saying this, it's not like it's going to be rocket science or some new thing that Illinois doesn't realize, but that's just what I've noticed when you look at the stats.
Right.
Again, USC again was still a win for the Gophers, but in their losses, I noticed that teams were able to run and have success. Exactly, Iowa is a great example. So, and I get Iowa does that on quite a bit of teams, but to me, that was just glaring in the losses, some of the rushing stats. So, I think that's what Illinois' plan is. Now, defensively, though, they're going to have their hands full in the secondary, I think. I actually watched most of the Maryland game. So, some Max Brosmer, to me, seems to have hit his stride, and he's looking better than Tanner Morgan in his best season. I think Tanner Morgan in the Outback Bowl season was really good. Like, I get you had Bateman and
Tyler Johnson,
yeah, and really some really good other receivers. But he was on his game that he was on his his accuracy was so good, Morgan, that season. So seeing how Brosmer, there was the fade touchdown pass in the back corner against Maryland. That was a thing of beauty for anybody to watch. Yeah, and I saw him do the row the boat after, Yeah, so Illinois' pass defense is going to be challenged again, but I think thankfully Illinois just faced Dylan Gabriel and that passing attack, which is almost unguardable. So I feel like they've got a nice primer heading into this game.
Yeah. Max, go ahead. I've asked the first couple questions, so I'll turn it over to you. I just want to say
I guess
fans in the chat. What's up, guys? Beat Illini. Hey. So he's rooting for us. USC's rooting for Minnesota, I guess.
Yeah, I guess my first question, to kind of follow up your point about Illinois wanting to run the football, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that Caden Fagan is out with a season-ending injury. So is it going to be Josh McCreary kind of leading with the carries, or how has Illinois been kind of splitting up the backfield without kind of the top back, I guess?
Yeah, so Illinois' got 3 backs that they use, which is really good. So, Minnesota has a stable of backs that they've used. And it's nice to have, you guys, Darius Taylor, and then have a Newbin you can put in there who Newbin was really good last year in Darius Taylor's absence. So hopefully I'm impressing you with my Minnesota knowledge too.
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah, so I just am a Big Ten junkie. So, and by the way, you guys, I do write. I'm the Big Ten correspondent for Mike Farrell Sports. I want everybody to know that.
There you go.
I write articles about Big Ten together, so I have to kind of keep my eye on.
So if you're mad about that stuff, look at Ryan's and tweet at him if you're upset about anything that's written.
Yeah, because I'm totally Mike Farrell. Yeah. No. If it's from me, I will take all criticism. But if it's from a Mike Farrell Sports page, do not blame me for that. All opinions are not from me. Yes, Illinois has 3 backs they use. So Josh McCray, who is actually Brett Bielema's first recruit and first offer at Illinois. So he's got a very sentimental spot for Josh McCray. He's a big bruiser at 6'1", 240 pounds. He's pretty quick for that size, but he's a guy that once he finds that hole, he'll bust through it, kind of like Juggernaut, if you know what I mean. He'll get through there. And Aiden Lawfrey is their speed back. He's actually had a couple really good runs against Michigan and Oregon in back-to-back weeks. So if you guys haven't been able to watch some of the highlights of either of those games, it's okay. The Oregon game was kind of ugly, but he had a couple big runs against Oregon. And then Michigan, he had a great first couple series. So he's a good back. He's their speed back. And then they have a freshman named Khalil Valentine who's going to be special. He's a true freshman. He's been in some big-time games this year to help them ice games against Kansas earlier in the season. At Nebraska, he was put in red zone situations. He scored a touchdown against Oregon on Saturday. He's their do-it-all kind of guy. He's working on his pass protection because he's still learning. He's young. But he's very elusive, and he's quick twitch. So they've got 3 backs that they're going to use.
Just wanted to ask you about, I guess it's a combination. I did catch some of your episode that you guys put out the other day, kind of previewing this game. I forget if it was you or your co-host that mentioned that maybe Luke Altmaier has regressed in some people's eyes the last 2 games. Granted,
Yeah, that was some Illini fans commenting in the chat.
Okay.
And so my co-host Kevin has noticed that. Okay. Basically, to me, I wouldn't say it's regressed talent-wise. I think it's against.
I was just going to wonder if you think it's more Altmaier, or does the O-line have any factor? The O-line's play have any factor?
I think the O-line has a lot to do with it. The O-line has been Jekyll and Hyde this year for Illinois. In some games, they've looked really good. Against Nebraska, they were pretty good. That's the reason why Illinois was able to win in overtime. Yeah. I think they had some moments where that wasn't good, but for overall, it was really good. Against Kansas earlier in the year was pretty good. And Kansas, while they're 2-6, could easily be 6-2. Kansas,
their quarterback can't hold on to the football. That's part of the problem.
They've had the lead in 5 of the 6 losses in the last 5 minutes of the fourth quarter. Kansas has, and they just can't stop. They just can't stop the team driving down the end of the game. Illinois, it happened against Illinois, but Illinois was able to take the lead a little bit earlier in the fourth. But yeah, so Altmaier, confidence may be wavering a smidge, but also competition-wise, against
Oregon's a tough game to judge.
It is. He still had 160-some yards and 1 really bad interception. 1 was just a great play from Oregon. He could have easily had a touchdown against Oregon, but one of the receivers dropped it, fumbled it in his hands in the back of the end zone. But Michigan, he only threw the ball 18 times. He was 9 for 18 for 80 yards. There was a couple drops, but he did miss some throws. So I think this is a big game for him to show, why he's a semifinalist for the Davey O'Brien Award. Still 15 touchdowns to 3 interceptions. It's a great ratio. He's been a very good quarterback this year. I think he's, this is a spot that he's wants this moment to get himself back to where, his trajectory before the Oregon game. I don't think many fans really are too worried about the Michigan game, but they don't want that Oregon game to just shake him the rest of the season because Illinois has seen him kind of get in a rut last year, and it took him a little bit to get out of it. So, but he's a tough guy. He's a quarterback, and I'm not necessarily really worried about him, but there are some people that have noticed that the last game and a half.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how he goes. Just the secondary for the Gophers definitely been the strength of that side of the ball for us. So should be a good matchup with Illinois' weapons on offense and Luke Altmaier being able to dish it pretty well this year.
Oh, yeah, I'm definitely excited. Besides that, any maybe storylines to this? We talked about earlier that you guys are kind of thinking about or wondering, think about this. Minnesota's a favorite in Champaign.
Yeah. I thought that might have been injury related. That's why I asked.
At a ranked opponent, you guys are a favorite.
Yeah, I like coming in as the underdog, to be honest. It makes me feel like we're a little bit more overlooked. But, the line flipped fast. I thought it was going to be a close game to begin with. The Vegas line. I read more into the Vegas opening line than I do where the money.
But I like it that Fleck can't use this to his team they don't believe in us. You can't say that.
Well,
no, actually, either people are putting their money on you guys. You can't in here. We can't play the whole they were the underdog. No, you're not. Like, you're the favorite here. Illinois gets to use that. See, they get the motivation. And I'm telling you, Illinois is going to use it, and I believe it.
Here's a fan motivation that Illinois can't touch is I don't know if the players feel it. All the fans want to beat Brett Bielema, and it's not an Illinois thing. It's a Brett Bielema thing, just for his years at Wisconsin and never
Fleck
getting to
too.
get him one.
Fleck hasn't beaten Bielema, so I think that's
right.
That's a big one, a feather in his cap, and he may never say it, but come on, if you guys were coaches and I played you 7 or 8 times and you never the better me once.
I don't know if they've played that much. They may have. I might be not recalling something. That one would probably get more attention if it didn't take forever for Fleck to beat Ferentz, which he finally did last year. So,
okay.
But yeah, all eyes on Bielema now, I guess, with that being the next longest.
And
I'm curious.
We all enjoyed that loss for Iowa. Oh, it was so beautiful. I love that it was like controversial and like it shouldn't have been.
Yeah.
We were just poor Iowa. Oh,
it was it's still unfortunately we didn't get them this year, obviously, but their fans still bring it up, which helps a little bit.
I feel that's not one of your guaranteed games. So Illinois gets Purdue and Northwestern every year. You guys get that taken from. Isn't that a trophy game for you guys too?
No, Iowa and Wisconsin are too. Yeah, we got both.
Okay, but you don't get them this year.
Who?
I thought you said you don't get Iowa this year.
Oh, like we didn't beat them this year. We lost already. That's right.
That's right. They did beat you guys. Okay.
Yeah.
Now. Sorry.
Yeah.
No, we already.
We usually never play that early. It was weird this year.
Yeah, it was super early. Okay, I was thinking in my head, how the hell does Minnesota not get
there?
No.
Ryan, I'll let you touch on we spent a lot of time on Illinois' offense. You mentioned it. When I looked at this game, I did pick it as a win preseason for the Gophers, but obviously that's before we know a lot. My biggest reason was Jerzon Newton is finally off this team. I mean, he wrecked us every time. He did that to a lot of teams, to be fair. That's why he was drafted where he was in the NFL, and that's why he's in the NFL. Now, I'm going to give you the opportunity. Why should I not be feeling as good that he's gone? What's this Illinois D-line look like? Really just the front seven in general. What can we expect to see from you guys?
Okay. I can't necessarily pinpoint one reason why, but I can tell you that it's a opportunistic defense. They've, way early. I would say the first 6-7 games of the year, first 6 games of the year, Illinois is 6-2, so they've had 8 games, but they were, getting a couple picks a game. They are opportunistic. I will say this, that they're scrappy. I would say they remind me a lot of Minnesota's defense. If you look at the numbers, secondarily wise, Illinois' defense has quite a few interceptions. So they even picked off Dylan Gabriel last week. And to me, it's that Brosmer has to be what he was last week against Maryland. And I think, no offense, I don't want any Gopher fans to take this the wrong way. But
no, it's good. Get them riled up.
Yeah, that's fine. Maryland, not a really quality team in my opinion, especially on the road. Northwestern went in there and slapped them around 37-10 or something like that in College Park. And I know they beat USC, but USC has kind of shown people that they can be beat.
That's why Blackie Chan's rooting for the Gophers, because of that comment right there that you just made. No, I'm just kidding.
But here's the thing: beating them, not impressive. How you beat them, to me, was impressive. So, but sure. Illinois is not Maryland. Obviously, everybody should know that. They're not. Illinois showed you that they're not an elite team this year. But what the gauntlet of what they've played this year shouldn't be taken lightly. And I think any team that can go into Lincoln and win, especially a team, one of the best Nebraska teams they've had in, a decade or two. And I'm not trying to say anything nasty, but you saw last week in Columbus what Nebraska has talent wise. They're a good team. I think they're going to end up with 7 or 8 wins, probably, hopefully 8, which means they'll beat Iowa in the last game of the year. So they are Illinois is battle tested. Okay. Mm-hmm. And yes, Minnesota's had their matchups with some decent teams, but Illinois, I think, has shown it's got some mental fortitude. It's tough. It's resilient, and I really feel like they're going to come up with a chip on their shoulder Saturday at home, ranked
Yeah.
6-2, and you're the underdog. I really think, and honestly, this nothing that I say or anybody says can change it. But when you got embarrassed and humbled like that last week, I think they've got no choice but to come out this week and put their best foot forward and be hungry and desire and just, you know what I mean? Like sometimes
Yeah.
a rabid animal is not what you want to see.
Oh,
And
right. I would have much rather Illinois come off like a close loss or something
yeah,
than
feeling
that.
themselves like, yeah, we're 6-2, but man, we about beat them. You know, we
That's right.
really showed people we are kind of a pretty elite team. This week, it's like, no, man, you guys look like you didn't even belong on the field with them. Everybody's laughing at you. Like, are you really going to be? And you're going to come home and be the underdog? Like, I'm telling you that this is going to be a motivated team. That doesn't necessarily mean they win, but it's going to be a dangerous team. It's going to be a good game, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think Illinois and Minnesota have a lot of great games. Last year, I really enjoyed last year's game um, that, that they did not deserve, but the old John Paddock came in and saved the day.
Yeah, man. That was such a weird play. I mean, Tyler Newman, God bless him,
he
drafted second round.
he
I have
adjusted.
no idea why he jumped to the underneath route with 30 seconds, 40 seconds left in the game, and the post just goes right behind him. It's like,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, but I got one. We got one more. If you have any more questions, or you want to do a prediction real quick before I take off.
Sure, go ahead.
Now, I want to hear you. Now, here's the thing. I'll give mine, but
Okay.
since I won't be on the rest of the show,
Okay.
I want to hear your guys' prediction,
Yeah.
and then I'll give.
So my score, really quick. I picked USC as a win preseason, and I bailed on it just with how the team was playing. They came out fired out, got the dub. Not gonna back it off this time either. I'm gonna go Gophers 26, Illinois 24. I think it's a coin flip game. I really do. I would think that even with Bryant back, I'm assuming he's gonna play. That's my mindset.
Okay.
I know my mindset doesn't affect the team at all, but as a fan,
Yeah, we got
um,
to think it does though, you know.
yeah, exactly. Here's my thing: if the Gophers can run the ball, they're not a run first team this year. They're just not, and they've thrown the ball a lot to Darius Taylor. So if they can use Darius Taylor enough as to substitute the run game and just keep it somewhat balanced, we're still going to be pass first in this game. I think that can move the ball, not like Maryland, but just keep consistent drives together and not put our defense back on the field right away. And the flip side of that, I don't know who's going to win the matchup, our D line versus your O line. A lot of people point to our sacks and that they're not super high this year. That's true, but if you look at the Maryland game,
There
and
was a lot
Maryland's
of disruption. I saw
there's a ton of disruption.
that caused at least one interception. I saw that.
And it was the same storyline in the USC game. They've gotten pressure. I don't know what it's at now because I don't pay for PFF. But
Are
at
you
one
basically
point,
saying the quarterbacks of the other team are just able to get it out just in time? Basically, they're
well,
just
I'm just saying the D line's creating a lot more pressure than what you would think just looking at their sack numbers. I mean, they had 23 pressures last week, 15 hurries, and 8 quarterback hits just against Maryland, and that's kind of been what they've done. That's why we have as many interceptions as we have. So I'm just hoping that continues, and that's what I'm picking as my keys to the game. Just Darius Taylor getting open in man coverage. I'm assuming Illinois will play man coverage because Brosmer has absolutely destroyed zone for the most part.
Okay. I'm glad you said that. And Illinois fans hate it when Illinois tries to play zone. It doesn't ever go well. And when they tried it last week against Darius Gabriel on like 3rd and 8, they rushed 3 guys. It's like they threw 2 touchdowns, one of like 30 yards and another of 20.
Yeah.
It's like, don't do it anymore.
Yeah. So that's my thing. Now I fully admit my brain tells me not to pick the Gophers in this game just because I do think Illinois is going to be able to run the ball somewhat, and they do have big playmakers on the outside to keep the defense off balance. So that's going to be the challenge, obviously. But I can't bet against this Gophers pass defense the way they've been playing really all season. So
Fair,
with that, I'll stick
fair
with the
enough.
Gophers.
Fair
Yeah.
enough, Max.
Yeah, I'll keep it short so we can get to yours, Ryan. But I've got the Gophers winning 26-17. I like Kurt said, I think with the pass coverage, I think the secondary is just playing so much more confident, and we've seen better linebacker play too. And hopefully we can just take advantage too of a little bit of the inefficiencies and like you talked about with Illinois' pass protection. Looking at the numbers, they're 127th in the country in sack rate. So if we can disrupt Luke Altmaier, he is good with his legs, but if we can keep him in the pocket and hopefully get home a couple of times or force some bad passes, I think the defense can hopefully take advantage. And like you said, Kurt, the offense has been trending in the right direction. The last game was we were clicking on all cylinders. I don't think we can expect the same kind of performance, but I think if we can keep moving in the same direction we've been and not having these self-inflicted wounds like we've seen earlier in the year, I think we can put up some points too.
Okay, all you go. You're all tagging it. I guess so. No one's in Illinois, man. Jeez, I'm like in hostile
Hey,
territory.
preseason, Max and our other co-host Spencer, they did pick Illinois preseason.
And it's
We
funny
did.
though that happened, and Illinois is 6-2 and ranked, and it's like now we're picking the Gophers.
Yeah.
It happens. And look, I have to stay true to myself and my form. I picked. Let's see. This year, Illinois is 6-2, and I'm 6-2 in my predictions for Illinois. I picked them to win every game except at Penn State and at Oregon so far. I've got Illinois winning this one. I said 27-21 on our Keep It Orange and Blue podcast. I think home field does matter. I think Illinois is undefeated this year at home. The crowd has just been so awesome this year. Like having 55 to 60,000 people that are loud and into it every game, and it gets the players. It's a home crowd, home field advantage that Illinois hasn't had in a while. Illinois they play well at home, and
Yeah.
I think Altmaier is ready to rebound. And as you mentioned, he does use his legs, and I think he will a lot more this week. I think you're going to see a lot more read option, RPO stuff, to where draw the edge, onto the running back and let him use his feet because he's been deadly this year when he uses his feet in some of their big wins against Michigan and Kansas and Nebraska. He was able to run for some big plays and pick up first downs to keep drives moving. And Illinois, I think, has the special teams advantage. I just want to keep that real as well. Illinois' David Alano is 14 for 17 this year, and he's good from 50 plus. Illinois has a kicker who has made it from 59 this year as well. They have two kickers that are quality. Hugh Robertson is an amazing punter. He does a great job of pinning teams deep. PJ Fleck would be proud of him. We're really good at keeping teams inside the 15, really. I think being able to keep the running back, knowing that, hey, Darius Taylor's good, but they don't really use that as their bread and butter, and sticking to man defense and getting pressure on Brosmer. I know Brosmer doesn't move the greatest. I see he's got big knee braces on, but he's efficient and he gets the ball out quick. But I think Illinois getting pressure on him is going to be key. So I got 27-21 Illinois in a very good and an entertaining game.
Yeah. No, that's more than fair. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
I mean, exactly. I think anybody to say a blowout's coming isn't realistic, and I give Minnesota credit for coming on
Yeah.
and playing strong of late. And I know you guys are going to end up going to a bowl game one way or another. So it's good when these teams can. Anyone who's not a blue blood, can make
Right.
some noise here and keep some consistency. And I think it was good for Fleck. He needed to get back to a bowl game again this year. I think after how it ended last year. And I know you guys you beat Bowling Green, but still, to
Yeah,
beat
we're not that happy with 5-7. I think we're past that point. I get we're Minnesota and can't go, to the Outback Bowl 10-win season every year, but
Yeah.
no. Last year was disappointing for sure.
All righty. Well, hey guys, I appreciate it. Awesome being part of the College Huddle. Glad I could join.
Yeah.
And we'll do it again sometime.
Sounds good. Thanks, Ryan. Thanks for jumping on.
Yeah, no problem. See
Thanks,
you guys.
Ryan. Good
Yep.
luck.
Again, that was Ryan with Keeping It Orange and Blue, our Illinois College Huddle affiliate. Max, he gave us a lot of info there. Let's just kind of start. I know we gave our keys because you wanted to hear them, but let's just kind of back up for a second. What were your general thoughts just on how he sees the game, I guess, and maybe what you think is going to happen?
Yeah, I think he did a good job of breaking it down as far as like strengths and weaknesses go. I think I think he is very confident though in Illinois' ability to play well offensively and defensively, which they have at times, and they are like, don't get me wrong, like Illinois is a very good team, and we should not be
Yeah.
taking them lightly by any means, obviously. Um, but at the same time, and some of the numbers tell a little bit of the story, but if you watch some of the games too, it feels like, and this is sort of a result of them being a very well coached team, is they take advantage of every mistake an opponent makes, and it
Yep.
feels like they kind of need a team to give them one or two, and they'll just run with it. Um, like to give it an exact example, like that Michigan game, it felt like Michigan couldn't get out of their own way with penalties,
Yeah.
turnovers. They
Yeah.
had, Jack Tuttle starting his first game this year. They played great, obviously, Illinois. Like, I'm not taking anything away from them, but it's not like they just dominated Michigan, if that makes sense. Like, I feel like
Right.
Illinois is much, they're closer to like our talent level than it appears, I feel like,
Then
with
you
their
you
record.
think they're closer to our tier than the tier above with the Indianas and Penn States and Oregons and whatnot.
Right.
I think that's
Now, I
fair.
think I think they can definitely beat those teams because they are so
Yeah.
well coached and they are talented. But I don't think just without any help they can do it all on their own, I guess is what I'm
Sure.
saying.
Sure. And I don't blame him for being confident at all. If you're 6-2 after going through that stretch, yeah, I'd probably be picking Illinois as well if I was their fan base. I just think part of it is that they're kind of at the end of that tough stretch, and I think I might be wrong. I think they have the bye week after us, and they're just waiting to get
Sure.
to that. If it's not after, if it's the week after, but they're looking at that if we can just get past Minnesota, get rested and healed up. Sometimes those games are the toughest, as the Gophers saw with UCLA, right? Like you're looking to just get past that one game and then get to your bye week. And after a tough stretch, um, they're definitely going to be motivated for sure. I have no doubt in that. 10-2 keeps Illinois in the playoff talk. It just does. With all the craziness that can happen in college football. So I'm not saying they're going to come out asleep. I just think they might be a little worn down, and that kind of played a factor into me sticking with the Gophers in this game. By the way, thank you, Scott Olerking, for tuning into this one live. Told me to pick the Gophers. I did. I stuck with it. I didn't bail on it like I did the USC pick. That's part of it. I don't want to be bailing on both of my preseason calls. I do think if Flex smart, I do think you can kind of, you don't want to bring up all the previous losses to Bielema because these players haven't been there for that many of them, most of them anyway. But I do think you can use the importance of what it would mean to Minnesota to ruin it. Like
Right.
that's what would make this victory so sweet to finally beat Bielema and just completely kill their chances of going to the playoff or being in the conversation even. That's why I think this one is just like that's what I'm excited for and just the opportunity it brings. Um,
Yeah.
and then just looking at the stats, like looking at their defense, it's funny because like I texted you before the show, like, is this right? Like their defense is 90. Illinois' defense is 90th in the country in yards per game, which and I don't think they're a bad defense at all. Like every game I've watched outside of Oregon, like Oregon's Oregon, I'm not going to hold that game against them. Every other game, though, I felt like their defense has been tough and physical, and so I was just surprised to see them ranked where they are. Now, part of that might be like Ryan was saying, the schedule they just played. But I don't know. What are your thoughts on just their defense and their front seven?
Yeah, I mean the phrase that comes to mind is just they're bend but don't break. Like they're like teams are going to get yards on them, but they might only come away with a field goal in the end of it, and that's how they're going to survive. Like they're going to make you earn it, and if even if you get to the red zone, that doesn't guarantee you even points at that point. And I feel like they've definitely done good throughout against really good opponents this year too, of keeping them kind of at bay. They'll let them get their yards, they'll let them get close, but they're not just going to give up once you get close to the end zone either. So they've done it,
Yep.
and the number, like you said, like their statistics like yard wise is not good, but then you look at how many points they're giving up and how many points per play, like they're really not getting beat on the big, big long touchdowns or
Yeah.
the big long runs. It's you have to drive all the way down the field and you still have to punch it in at the end of the day, which they've done a good job and consistently too.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Well said. Um, I do hope though, because they're going to be in man. I'm guessing. Let me step back for a second. Maryland and UCLA both surprised me with how much they loaded the box. I know Gopher fans aren't happy with how we ran the ball even last week, because the 50-yarder kind of helps out the average yards per carry. But I don't know, like if you go back and watch that game, UCLA again had like 8 and 7 guys in the box were just blitzing off the edge. It's like they knew we were going to run one thing on those plays in the second quarter. Really, that's where they got all those tackles for loss. But they just came in, loaded the box, and blitzed hard off the edge. Like, yeah, if teams are going to do that, then throw it every play because you can do that with Brosmer. You're consistent enough. He's completing nearly 70% in Big Ten play. So I'm not saying we need like a straight balanced attack, but I think the offensive line. Let me put it this way: I think the offensive line might have improved over the bye week without us even really getting a real chance to see it, because teams like Maryland still loaded the box, and if we're able to just make Illinois be honest and just play us straight up, then you might see a more successful run game, especially when you have Darius Taylor and Marcus Major to hold the hand the ball off to. There we go.
Right.
So I'm not fully giving up on the run game entirely, but it's nice that this team with Max Brosmer leading it is balanced enough to just throw the ball all around when needed.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, Darius Taylor, Marcus Major still have that like explosive potential at time too. Like they can pick up the necessary yards. It hasn't been the best year that we've known on the ground, but like they're still being effective when they need to be, like, especially on like short yardage situations. I think we're still 100% on fourth down, aren't we? Too like
That
it
sounds.
feels
I
like we
can't think of getting stopped, but
right. And I feel like in games like this too, where it's going to come down to like a lot of short yardage situations and kind of old school Big Ten football. We definitely can't abandon the run, but like you said, if Brosmer is going to be hot, then I have no
yeah.
problem with us just letting him throw it everywhere.
I'm a little curious to see though, like if we can't run and they don't have to devote that many guys to the box. Iowa basically manned up in the second. Well, they had help over the top, but it was a lot of man coverage underneath in that second half against
Sure.
Iowa. So that's the danger. And if you're Illinois, that's the game plan you're trying to force upon the Gophers, is just make us throw these quick little hitters that they can play tight coverage on.
Right.
I think we've seen that they've adjusted a little bit with just the amount of screens they've mixed in and the motion, like bootleg with the drag routes underneath. Those are just uh, tough routes to cover in man coverage the whole time. So, and it's college football, so
Yeah.
we're going to see a mix, right? They're not going to just play
Right.
man coverage every single down.
Right. Yeah. And one last thing about Illinois' defense, a name that we haven't really brought up many like actual players, but the one guy that we have to neutralize is Gabe Jacas. He's leading their team with 6.5 sacks. And he's also got 3 forced fumbles. Like
Yeah.
that dude could wreck us. Like
I
I
think
know
he's
Johnny Newton's
third
not
in the
there
Big
anymore.
Ten in like QB hurries or rushes
Yeah.
or whatever the PFF stat is. He's number 3 in the Big Ten. Yeah, absolutely a
Right.
threat.
They've got their own number 17. Like that's we've
Right,
got
right,
Dodd, they've
exactly.
got Jacas. Like it's
They also have their own Justin Wally. Their top corner is very good. I'm
yes.
assuming his job will just be follow around Daniel Jackson. That was one key I was going to get to, but I didn't want to keep Ryan here longer than necessary. Is Elijah Spencer's going to have to continue to make plays, or just one of those other receiving threats, right? Maybe it is Darius
Right.
Taylor out of the backfield, in man coverage. That's definitely going to be there because I like Illinois' front seven. I think they're pretty solid all around, but I would take Darius Taylor against any of their linebackers as far as trying to cover them on a pass route. So, yeah. And then if they can protect Brosmer, then I think things go very well. But defensively, yeah, Altmaier's legs are scary in my opinion. He just extends plays, and that can always cause trouble. But again, like the past, outside of that UCLA shot deep down the field and the garbage time, I guess, against Maryland, the Gophers haven't given up very big plays downfield, but that's exactly what Illinois can do. Like he brought up Franklin. Seems like every guy Bielema pulls in through the portal is just a hit right away when they need it. They also have that left tackle, Davis, I think his name is. He's been a pretty good pull. I mean, you don't find a lot of starting left tackles from a division down to just come in and be like a good offensive lineman. Like that's a really good find by Bielema. But yeah, I mean, they definitely are threatening. They got the weapons, and we saw, they didn't have a particularly great running game last year, and we saw what that did to us. So, um, what are your thoughts on Illinois' offense against our defense?
Yeah, like you kind of hit on earlier, Bielema was going to do whatever it takes to win, and it feels like we've gotten pretty used to Illinois having always a really strong run game. They're pretty even. I think it was like 53% they lean towards the run versus the pass, but they are only averaging like 3.8 yards a carry. And then like we talked about with their starting running back Hayden Fagan being out for the year, like they're going to have to rely on some more depth at running back. It'll be interesting to see kind of what they do in terms of like, because a lot of their offense, right, is they're going to rely on the run, and there's a lot of play action, pre-snap motion, get the defense kind of looking one way and run the other way, and then at the end of the day, if Altmaier can just run and pick up the first down, he's going to do it. So I'll be curious to see how much they rely on the run and like the power run early, or if they're just going to try and spread us out, prevent the pressure, get the ball out quick. That will be interesting, I guess, but at the end of the day, too, like if they are able to just run all over us, then I think we're going to be in for a long one.
Yeah, I had kind of a similar thought. I thought they might focus on spreading us out and then running the ball just to make
Right.
our linebackers or inside corners make those plays that early in the year they weren't making. Now, I will say it seems like the front seven is a lot healthier since second half Iowa is when I felt like the injuries released, or I mean, while he was out that whole game, but really since we're the healthiest we've been since the Iowa game, essentially, or
Right.
pre-Iowa game. So I think that's a big thing. Cody Lindenberg, back-to-back weeks, has been our top-rated defender, and at the linebacker position, that's huge. Mav being back is huge. I love Mav. Just has a nose for the football. Like he's our best run stopping linebacker, I would say, as far as just meeting a running back in the hole and not letting him go much further. So yeah, I mean, just the way we're trending, it gives you a lot of good feelings, but it is Bielema, and Ryan brought up special teams. Bielema is the best, maybe in all of college football, of knowing when to call a fake punt or just a trick play on punt or special teams, whatever. He just dials it up and they execute it when they need it. It's how they beat Iowa a couple years ago too, with that big fake punt. But yeah, that's something definitely to be watched for. Ryan's absolutely right. They do have the advantage in special teams. Dragon Kesich, 2 for 2 last week. I'm hoping he's just back because I
Yeah.
think this game, Gophers will be trailing with the ball, and it's going to come down to a Dragon Kesich field goal as time expires to get us over the top. So we kind of already mentioned our keys with Ryan. I'll emphasize them again. D line, get after Luke Altmaier, create some pressure, and I think Rosemer is going to be able to find Darius Taylor against man coverage, and I think we're going to be able to move the ball just enough keep them honest, so they can't just focus all their attention on Jackson and Spencer. So to me, I think that's enough to get it done, and I got the Gophers 26-24.
Yeah. Yeah, mine again too. My keys are just to keep Altmaier in the pocket. Hopefully, we can cause some disruption. But the second things break down and he gets outside and can run, then he's a really good athlete, and I think he's tied for their lead in carries too. So like he knows how
Yep.
to run the football.
Yeah.
Second one is just no self-inflicted wounds, which you've done better at going the last few games. But like I said, this is a really well-coached Illinois team, and they're going to take advantage of every inch you give them. And then we just need to capitalize in the red zone, which again we've done better at. We've definitely improved since early in the year, but this is an Illinois defense that you're going to have to earn every single yard, and it doesn't matter if you just drove 90 yards down the field. You're definitely not guaranteed points against this defense. So yeah, to me, it's a go for victory if we can do all those things. 26-17. Hopefully, we can keep putting up some points, and the pass coverage can stay atop the Big Ten. But guess we'll
Yeah.
see.
Let's get Ethan Robinson back to how he was at the start of the year as well. That would be nice.
Yeah, maybe another
Um,
Coy Parrish interception. Why not?
He leads the Big Ten, and he's definitely got the least amount of snaps on the defense out of anyone that's even near the leaderboard. So yeah, 5 picks for Coy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. He's been a complete game changer, and I think the thing I'm still most impressed by, yeah, people have caught like some passes in his zone or whatever, but he hasn't been fooled and like had someone just running wide open behind him at all yet.
No.
So that's been the big thing with all the safeties really, because they're all kind of younger, at least the 3 that play the most. But yeah, hopefully Goosby's back, Jaw Joyner back. They got dinged up on the elongated play for the starters in the end of that Maryland game, which
They have
we
to
covered
finish,
last
Kurt.
show. They do have to finish, but like they didn't
That's
even look like they were
PJ's.
playing hard. That's the thing. Like, and I'm not like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not really taking a shot at the players or anything. They were up 30 points in the fourth quarter with 7 minutes left. I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
Maryland threw out their backups, and yeah, I mean, yeah, you don't want to give up his points like they did, but it was garbage time. I don't know how else to really say it.
That was definitely one thing from PJ's post-game press conference that
He was ready for
worries me about this one. Oh, he knew exactly what he was going to get asked about, but his answer didn't really. I mean, it kind of made sense, but his reasoning was basically like he just had too many bad memories of giving up late leads, and his heart just feels that like they had to finish the game. And in my head, I'm like, then you just did not have a feel for this one. And if you were that
Right.
afraid of giving
Those
up
games
that
didn't feel
lead,
anything like it. Yeah.
then how do you feel about coming in to play Brett Bielema when the Gophers are 0-10 against him? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. He just got to get out of his own head sometimes.
I think he's just got it ready to go, to be honest. Like in his head, like there's clearly stuff that bothered him from what he saw of the team, and he just holds on to it and he just lets his mind talk about it. Like in the immediate post game presser, he kept talking about how, like, the last touchdown, backups were in, it is what it is. Yeah, he brought that up like 3 times, and it's just like, it's okay, PJ. Like it was garbage
Right.
time. The starters were in for the start of that drive. That's why it makes it so weird that he kept like excusing it, but also wanted to prove a point, but then also excusing it. It's like he felt stuck in the middle, like you said. Like sometimes he gets trapped in his own mind that is PJ Flex brain, and it's just like,
Yeah.
take
It's
it easy, man.
not a mind you probably want to live in.
I think PJ would agree with that.
He's just trying to get out of there.
I will say, outside of that, though, the last 3 games have been maybe his best coached games overall. Because I think that the talent wise has been pretty even in those last 3 games. And one of our questions was when we were losing to North Carolina, when we dropped the game to Michigan, and even Iowa, was like, how many games are we going to lose where we're like equal levels in talent or close enough, right? And those last 3 games, I would say for the most part were, and he did well, very well. So we're not PJ haters, just making that clear. People that are big Gopher fans might tell on us or something if we don't praise them stuff.
Right. They're just the obvious things, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But no. It definitely, it feels like you can just feel like he just let the players kind of take over the game. And I think I feel like the players can kind of feel that too. And I feel like that's why they've played better, maybe. Like, it's actually just on them to go out and win it. Versus like, well, we're just going to try to run out the clock. I don't know.
Right. Well, yeah, that's part of it too. I mean, that could be a whole discussion that we could have, but like, I think he wanted to go to running the ball and running out the clock in that second quarter, which is why we kept running it into. Again, I don't know what Maryland was doing, but they kept loading the box, and so we kept running it into that in the second quarter. So, I mean, I guess that's why they were doing it, I suppose. But I felt like they were playing with a heavy box a lot of the game, and it didn't really make sense to me. But yeah, it just, if PJ had the ability to run it like we have it in years past, I think he would. But also, when you have Max Burrows and we're playing as well as he is, I think he's finally just letting the offense do what it does. They have too many guys in the box. Okay, let's have Daniel Jackson beat his man because that's what he can do. Let's see. Right. Hunter Coyle says, I feel like historically the Gophers face plant after a good stretch. I hope I'm wrong because we need to be 1-10 in the Bielema era. Yeah, you're right. So, Hunter, I had that same feeling, but I felt the faceplant would have come after the win against USC and been the UCLA game. That's where I was most feeling what you're feeling. Now, Illinois is a good team, and so I don't think just a close loss necessarily means a faceplant. But if we did just come out and lose by 17 points against a good Illinois team, but a beatable Illinois team, I'm with you. That would be a total faceplant. But yeah, definitely want to just got to stick it to that giant beer gut of Bielema's. I mean, what a
Right.
what a year to finally get it though. It would be the best year. It really would. I mean, there's probably a few
Yeah.
Gophers seasons in there you could pick out, but here's the thing: in Bielema's run, a lot of those years the Gophers were so bad. Like that was Brewster era and a Mason era into the early Kill era. Like I'm not taking anything away from them. It just like I don't know. Like I always wanted to beat them for sure, but it just like those Gopher teams, I felt like never had a chance just because of the state of the program that they were in.
Right.
But
Yeah.
um,
And doesn't it kind of feel like this, if we beat Illinois, even if we don't play our best game, like this definitely validates our success of late even more than like the blowout of Maryland. Like
oh, one
this is
hundred
the
percent.
game that just is like, okay, like this is where we're at.
Oh,
Now, if we lose, now it's like, okay, 0-11 against Bielema. We can't beat Illinois. Things are kind of coming to a halt here. Like, I don't
we're
know.
gonna if we lose to him again, we're gonna have to create a trophy just for him. It's not even with Illinois; it's just for
Yeah,
Bielema, and it's
it's
just gonna
just
be his big gut on a on a little plaque, and that's what it'll be like. Hunter says he's having faith. Well, good. We are. I'm surprised. I thought Max might stick to his guns from his uh, preseason call, but um,
hey,
I
credit to
really
you
think
for
it's a coin flip game.
remembering. You
Yeah.
remember what you picked preseason. I don't. I
Oh, I mean,
I
there's
probably should go back and look.
yeah. Go back and listen, boost those views. By the way, if you're here and don't mind hitting that like and subscribe button, we would really appreciate it. Helps the algorithm on all things. We appreciate anywhere you listen, but YouTube really helps. Yeah, thanks for tuning in. Where was I going with this though? Bielema. Anything else? Bielema, beer drinking
Something about his
Bielema.
gut. I don't know.
Yeah, I covered it all. Um, Hunter, I just got the notification you subscribed. Appreciate that. Yes. Anyway, I think we can move on now to our favorite time of the week, the Sky U Pod Parlay. For those of you that are new, every week there's usually three of us. Spencer's out. He's trying to become a doctor or something. Apparently, that's a little time consuming at times, especially when you got a kid, med school. I don't know. Excuses. But anyway, he's not here. But how it works is we all pick a lock of the week. It can be spread over under, and we put it together for the Sky U Pod Parlay, and we encourage you to hop on and ride it with us. Now our record isn't the best, but we have hit twice this season, which may or may not be double the rate it hit all of last season. So with that being said, gamble responsibly. And let's get into it. Max, what is your lock of the week for the Sky U Pod Parlay?
My lock of the week. I've never felt more confident in a pick. Navy minus 11.5 at Rice. It's Rice.
Yeah,
Yes,
you cook it,
they
you eat it. I have no
they
idea what's Rice
just
even doing this year.
they're bottom in the country. They're not good. They're just
Okay.
one of those bottom 10 teams. Now, yeah, Navy just got smoked by Notre Dame. I get it. Navy's still a really good team, especially
Yeah.
offensively. Rice can't score points. I think it opened at like a 13-point spread and it got bet down to already 11.5. Now, I could be saying all this and I'm completely missing some huge injury. I don't think it matters. I don't think Rice wants to get cut blocked by a team that runs a triple option. Navy's actually been throwing the ball a decent amount too. So we're going
And
to take Navy in a bounce back spot.
do you really want to beat the armed forces this close to like the election?
No,
Seems like anti-American, which Notre
exactly.
Dame always was. That's why we all hate them. So, I like it, Max.
Yeah.
I didn't even look at that game, but that's a good pick. I don't love mine, but I can't find one that I love, so I'm gonna stick with it. The Iowa over has surprisingly hit a lot this year. and they're taking on rival Wisconsin. The over-under is 41.5, and I know that sounds like a lot of points for those two teams, but Iowa's scoring, folks, and they finally benched Cade, and they can run the ball already. Now they bring in Sullivan, who can run the ball, and Wisconsin's throwing it because the running backs are hit and miss. I think that's fair to say. They did okay though. They put up some points against Penn State, and I think that the rivalry game is just going to lead to some big plays happening in general. So I'm going to take the over 41.5 for Wisconsin versus Iowa. I'm not,
I like it.
I'm just going to leave it there.
Yeah.
Do you remember Shooty's pick? He did text it in.
Yeah, Spencer is taking the USC Trojans minus 2.5
Yeah.
at Washington.
Oh, that's scary,
Tight
folks.
game.
But that's
Yeah.
your SkyUpod parlay of the week is USC minus 2.5 against Washington. Man, I love the Navy pick. I'm with you, Max. That's a good one. All right. There are some other big games happening around the country, and we do like to take a look at those, especially in the Big Ten. There's a little game happening this week. You might have heard about it. Ohio State at Penn State. Penn State plus 3.5 at home. Let me just say my thoughts on this one really quick because I'm stuck. I think Drew Aller's good, but very average. I think there's a lot of quarterbacks that could do what Drew Aller's doing with Penn State's roster, I guess, that are in the Big Ten. So I've never bought in. I still think Penn State. I don't know. What scares me is what I watched against Nebraska for Ohio State's offensive line and how much they struggled. That really makes me give strong consideration to the home team. But they just haven't been able to do it as of late. With all that being said, I'm going to go Penn State at home, and I hate the pick, but I'm going to go the Nittany Lions. They finally get it done.
Yeah. No, it's not a bad pick. I do think this could probably be a lower scoring game. So 3.5 points it's big. It's over the key number, but I don't know. It's easy to have Ohio State's game last week against Nebraska stuck in your head, and for that exact reason, I'm going to take Ohio State because I feel like we're in a little bit of a look ahead, and they always play their toughest opponents, at their best. So I think Ohio State can get it done. If there's any edge, even too, it's Penn State in field position and special teams has not been good. It's not like Ohio State has a lot of help, but I don't know. That's just what I'm going with.
No, that's more than fair. And I don't feel I was gonna pick Ohio State all year in this game, and then last week, and I guess I'm falling for it. All right, here is a fun one. Northwestern is at Purdue, so Purdue is now. Oh, Northwestern's favored by 1. Okay, I think Purdue might have opened as a favorite. Is that correct?
I have no idea. They could have been.
I thought they did, but anyway, man. I have no idea. I really don't. It's a 1-point game, so it's basically a pick 'em. Purdue at home, this just feels like the one they get. I think Northwestern is the overall better team, but I just feel like for no reason at all other than Purdue being Purdue, Purdue at home wins this game.
Yeah, I could see it. I'm not trying to be against you again, but I'm gonna take Northwestern just because I feel like they are just overall the better team. Been up and down, but they were close with Iowa in the first half.
Yeah.
I don't know.
They were. No, I like David Braun probably more than most just because we all went to the same college, not together, but
yeah.
I do root for his success, just not against the Gophers. But he's already beat us. He's one against Gophers, so no, I don't blame you at all. That's a tough one. Oregon at Michigan. Michigan plus 14.5 at home. Taking Oregon. I just think they got too much offensively. I know Michigan got a nice win last week against a solid Sparty team, but I just don't trust Michigan's quarterback situation. I think the Ducks are just coming alive at the right time, so I'll take the Ducks.
Yeah, Oregon offensively and defensively can pretty much do no wrong at this point. And yeah, Michigan got to win. But yeah, now on to back to the original quarterback, going back with Warren.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that plays out. That's a tough one to come back and have to play the Ducks. But yeah,
Yep.
I'll take Oregon too.
Wisconsin at Iowa. Iowa -3. Rivalry game, so it's always tough to predict. I think Iowa is going to get them. I think pretty easily. I just think Iowa's run game is legit, and I'm not sure what Wisconsin's offense really does well, to be honest. Like, I know they got a solid offensive line, but Iowa's great against the run, and so if they're just able to pin their ears back, I don't know. I like Iowa at home.
Yeah, I really do feel like I should take Iowa, but I just feel like 3 points might be a lot in this one. I know we're going with the over for the parlay. I just feel like it's gonna be close. Like I feel like it's just gonna be
Yeah,
back and forth. 3 points. I'm just gonna take it.
28-27.
There you go.
But not for me. Okay. Pitt at SMU. That's a sneaky good game. Pitt is undefeated, correct?
Yeah, and I believe SMU has one loss.
Yeah.
Are they undefeated too? No, they lost
No,
to.
they've lost. I don't remember who, but I know they got a loss. SMU is the 7.5 point favorite at home. I believe, was it last week that they just had a close one with Duke, Max, or was that earlier in the year?
Yep, that was last week.
Man, maybe they were looking ahead a little bit. I don't know. Pitt's a tough team to predict, but 7.5 points is a lot because I do think they're obviously solid. So I'm going to take Pitt just because it is over a touchdown.
Yeah, same here. I feel like I have no read on Pitt at all. They just play teams close and win. But SMU's look good, but it's hard to tell like if they can really withstand being at the group of four now level. So yeah, this is now a classic ACC battle, right? Pitt at SMU.
Dude, for some reason in my head, I had it that SMU was in the Big 12. And my dad's like, no, they're in the ACC.
Wouldn't that make
And
sense?
it would. And then I'm like, wait a sec. And yeah, they're in the ACC. And I swear, for some reason in
Yeah.
my head, that they aren't. But yeah.
Well, I think you're confusing UCF is in the Big 12, which also
Yeah.
makes no sense.
It would make more sense if they just flip-flopped those two. But it is what it is. Yeah, guys, thanks for tuning in for another episode of Sky U Pod. Let us know what you think's going to happen in the Gophers versus Illinois game in the comments. We always like hearing from you guys. We are with the College Huddle. There's a website there, collegehuddle.com. Go, feel free to check them out. Tons of articles, write-ups on almost every team. We have almost every team in college football on there. So whatever team you're looking to hear on, you probably can find a write-up on. So, or a podcast to follow about. So we appreciate the support. And yeah, hit that like and subscribe. We'll see you next time. Go Gophs.